Hello and welcome to Microsoft Mechanics Live. Coming up, we're going to give you an intro and a round-trip tour of the new OneDrive capabilities that support your shift from Windows 7 to Windows 10 and Office 365 ProPlus as part of the move to the modern desktop. We're going to show you how you can replace and refresh your PCs using the migration of files to the cloud, so they're available to your new PCs and accessible from any device with OneDrive Known Folder Move. New updates for protecting and collaborating as you work on your files with people inside as well as outside of your organization, and search with advanced file and discovery and the latest intelligent experiences built into OneDrive. So to join me, I've got Randy Wong from the OneDrive team. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thanks, it's awesome to be here.
So Randy, I know that lots of folks, probably everybody here watching, is really planning a migration either from Windows 7 to Windows 10, or maybe an earlier build of Windows 10 to a newer build of Windows 10, and including Office 365 ProPlus. One of the things here to consider is how you migrate user files. In fact, this is one of our core considerations, one of our top considerations as you plan your migration. As you can see on our modern deployment wheel here, we cover all the different steps here for deployment. But one of the hardest things to do, and one of the most physics-intensive things to do, is moving sometimes hundreds of gigabytes of files per user off that machine and onto a new machine or into a file server into the cloud, and then bringing them back onto the new computer when it's either re-imaged or if it's a brand new computer. But now OneDrive presents a new way to do this, right?
Yes, it does. We really want to help you guys make that shift from Windows 7 to Windows 10 and bring your files with you. And we think a big part of the modern desktop and the modern workplace is having your files in OneDrive. And when your files are in OneDrive, it enables anywhere access. You get up-to-date security, you get intelligence, and collaboration.
Very cool. So how does OneDrive then help shift the content itself?
Yeah, so OneDrive transforms the process of moving your files and content as you migrate to Windows 10. This has traditionally been a manual process which doesn't scale, and you would normally move files from one device to another device. But we know in this world where people use multiple devices, they just want to connect to the cloud and get access to their files.
Right, and a lot of times you just don't even want to think about where you stored that file. Is it on my work machine? Is it on the Surface Go in my bag? Is it on my phone? Like, all these things shouldn't be a factor. Plus, just think about all the manual migrations where you got to visit a desk with maybe a USB drive and help somebody move. We can make that much better. It's really great. We're seeing a lot of people, in terms of needing this capability, not only because it's way more convenient, but also because the physics of moving to every desk and maybe spending sometimes an hour or 4 hours per PC to get those files moved just isn't tenable. So can we see what this looks like with what OneDrive can do for this here?
Yeah, so this is a feature we're really excited about. It's called Known Folder Move. And here I am on a Windows 7 machine. And as you can see, like many people, I have files on my desktop. I also have files in my Documents folder and my Pictures folder. And people that have been using Windows for the last 20 years, this is just how they work, how they get work done. We're going to provide a really easy way to just move those straight up into OneDrive. So I have the sync client already installed, and I'm just going to go into Settings, click on Autosave, Update Folders, and you'll see this new dialog to really set up protection for your folders. And all the files existing in your desktop, Pictures, and Documents folder will automatically start moving up to the cloud, get protected, and you'll get anywhere access to it. So I'll start protection, and you can start to see that a lot of these files are starting to sync up to the cloud. So you can see the little sync icon, and these files are going from sad local files to happy cloud files.
Nice. So those files are then going to be available for me when I move to a new computer, whether I completely pave this machine and that drive gets re-imaged and then reapply the new Windows image, or if I move to a new PC, right?
Yeah, so here I'm going to move over to a brand new install of Windows 10. This could be a new PC, or it could be the same PC with a new installation of Windows 10. And you can see OneDrive is pre-installed with Windows 10, so everyone has OneDrive. For the purpose of the demo, I'm going to sign in, but you can also do a silent config where using the domain credentials, you can automatically have the user sign in.
And did this roll out as part of 1803 Windows 10?
Right. So a lot of this is tied to the latest releases.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and type in my credentials. And I'll enter in my password. you can use multi-factor auth or whatever IT policies are set up, and you'll start to see some magic happening. So behind the scenes, it's trying to pull for the group policies. I've enabled a couple group policies in the background, and we'll show you those later. But I'm setting up OneDrive, and because I have Windows 10, I get files on demand. And files on demand is a great feature because those files don't actually go to the local device. We are just bringing down all the folder structure as well as the metadata for those files. You can keep them online only, but if you want to take them offline, you can easily do that by right-clicking and making a file available on the device.
And the nice thing is here, you can also, if you've got, say, a much larger device that you want to sync initially, then come into your new PC with maybe a smaller drive, maybe like a Surface Go with a 64 gig drive, you can manage all that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So that's one of the huge benefits of the cloud. And what you're starting to see is those files that were previously on my Windows 7 device are starting to show up here in Windows. So you see all those files that were on my desktop. If I go into Documents, all those same folders and files are here in my Documents folder. Same with my Picture folder. And because these are backed by OneDrive, I get all the rich thumbnails, the 320 plus previews that we support, right in Windows. And I can see video previews, even if that application is not installed on the device. Another great thing about this, you can see here if I go into Properties, that this video file is 54.5 megabytes.
Right.
But if you look at size on disk, it's 0 bytes.
Again, amazing if you've got a much smaller drive that you're coming from. Maybe you've got a multi-terabyte machine at home or under your desk. This makes it possible to travel with a much smaller drive. So it's really good because we're seeing more and more people have a companion device in this case. Now they can access all their files wherever they are. Not just that, they can have multiple PCs syncing, and they can access the files from their phones.
Right, and all these files are searchable, even though they're not fully synced down to the device. And again, all the applications that you work with will also work nicely with these files.
All right, so one thing I bet a lot of people are wondering watching are, what are some of the policy controls that I can do? Because we saw a lot of manual, how do I initiate the sync? I go into the autosave folder through settings, I can turn that on, or I can go into OneDrive and kind of sign in, but we can automate all of that stuff under the covers using policy, right?
Right, so there's a couple key things to think about when you're thinking about deploying for a large organization. And we really recommend more of a phased approach, kind of start out small and then slowly get user adoption and awareness and then roll out more broadly. So I'll jump into GP Edit, and you can see there's a couple policies here related to Known Folder Move. The one that I actually enabled was called Silently Redirect Windows Known Folders to OneDrive. So within this group policy, you can even do this completely silently. So when the user logs into Windows, picking up their domain credentials, they'll have their Known Folder Move set up automatically. And this is a good companion to Autopilot. You can just make that a completely smooth process. As part of this group policy, you have to enter in the tenant ID, and you also have an option to show a notification to the end user after the folders have been redirected.
So you can make it completely silent, so you can do it basically behind the scenes so that it's not in view to the users. It's a nice thing because then I can do that. I can also do things like match the default sign-in for Windows so that even the OneDrive client's kind of configured and already signed into Randy Wong's account, for example, so that you don't have to do that additional sign-in steps. All these different things we can do. One thing is that tenant ID, you get that through Azure Active Directory. You can query it through PowerShell, but once you kind of wire everything up, it can happen with very little user interactivity.
Yeah, the other option that I wanted to talk about was this one, which is really prompt users to move Windows Known Folders to OneDrive. And this will pop that dialog you saw earlier about protecting your folders. So the user will have an opportunity to opt in. And we recommend this to roll this out before you do the broad silent config to let users kind of see what's there, and then you can do the bigger hammer later.
Right, right. So another thing I think that's great, not only just for the individuals, but also for organizations. I bet a lot of people here maybe have users that are using map drives, map file share drives. Anybody? Almost every hand went up. So what if I've got like an iDrive or a Z drive that's been mapped into my finance department's file share? How do I start to do that?
Yeah, so you can see Jeremy has his Z drive, And how many of you guys have Z drives or letter drives, file shares? We're going to give you a great way to move those up into the cloud, get protection, and get anywhere access. And we're doing that through a feature we call Team Site Auto Mount.
Let's explain how Team Site Auto Mount works. So a couple things here. First off, we have our file share, right?
Right, so we're going to move the file share data up into SharePoint, into a shared library, using our Sharepoint Migration tool. And this is, we've invested a lot into this feature to make it super simple to get those files up there. The next step is you're actually going to go into the SharePoint shared library and click on the sync button, copy a library ID, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here we are in that I've moved all those files up from the Z drive into my SharePoint shared library, and I'll just click this sync button, but I'm not actually going to sync it. I'm just going to copy this library ID. So that will pick up the library ID and put it on the clipboard. And
now
then
you can use that in your policy, right?
Exactly. So here I'm going back into Group Policy Editor. You can see I've already configured it. It's called Configure Team Sites to sync automatically. And I copied that library ID, and then you can go into the policy. You can name the drive whatever you want it to be. This isn't actually what shows up in Windows Explorer, but then you enter in the tenant ID. And then after the cooking show is over, you go back into Explorer, and you'll see that under this Contoso, I have a Z drive documents. And again, because of files on demand, those files aren't syncing down to the machine. I can access them whenever I want. If I want to take them offline, I can easily do that by saying always keep on the device or clicking on the file to hydrate them. But this is a great way to get those files from the file share into a SharePoint shared library, and those files become happier files.
Very cool. And just to reiterate, we're not actually moving the files. It's non-destructive against your file shares, so everything is still there. You'd have to educate users, obviously, in terms of where to find that link on the Contoso left nav of the Windows Explorer. But then that gives you access to the files, at least the placeholder, the file icons there, and the pieces that you can actually navigate right in the File Explorer menu without even pulling those files down. But they can say, always keep these different files on my machine, and it will keep those in sync as well. So it's protecting the files, and if something happens in the background, if you get ransomware attacked, any of that stuff, you can use all of the additional capabilities there to kind of restore your files back to a previous state as well. Yeah, that's one of the big benefits of moving your files into Office 365, Microsoft 365, is you're getting all the great security. We have tons of teams that are working on security across the company, the best and the brightest, and they're making sure that all this data is protected. On top of that, we have the Security and Compliance Center, and if you have an enterprise license, you can set up different policies for your data. You can set up classification labels. You can set up data loss prevention policies to protect sensitive information. You can do e-discovery holds. You can do auditing. All these different capabilities that you have by these files being in the cloud versus before, if they're on your local device, you have very little visibility into what's happening. Okay. So in the future, things like file restore will work if say, even 6 months later, you want to go back, way back in time if you need to. Maybe something got infected that didn't actually activate until later. These are all really cool things, and all those protections then that you can have, they're all just native to Office 365 and OneDrive. So what else can we do here in terms of advancements or things that we've changed on the OneDrive side? Yeah, you mentioned Files Restore. We rolled that out last year for OneDrive, and now we're also rolling it out for shared libraries. Oh, and that's a great feature because it allows you to look at the last 30 days and roll back your OneDrive or your shared library just in case anything happens in that scenario. Right. Once they're there, we can actually have several updates that we've made to secure the collaboration even further. Now, how would I work with maybe an entity that's outside of my organization using OneDrive and some of the things that we've shown here? Yeah, so kind of the next pillar we want to talk about is sharing and collaboration. And that is really core to being more productive, working in a modern environment. And we recently released a ton of great features around
sharing and collaboration, and we're going to talk about some of them right now. That's the files restore that we were talking about earlier on a shared library, where before we only had OneDrive, now we're also showing for shared library.
So just a correction, it goes back 30 days, right, in terms
yeah,
of
30
restore.
days.
And beyond that, we even have some new updates in terms of how we can share the files themselves, right?
Yeah, so you've probably seen this new sharing dialog, and we're making it consistent across all the places you work with Office 365 files, whether it be Office itself, or in SharePoint, or in OneDrive, or in the Office applications on mobile, the desktop clients. So having this familiar share dialog will really help your users and to work in a predictable way.
And we've also made some improvements into how you actually go about making that sharing happen between some of your colleagues or peers in your organization.
One of the big things is we talked about is the Smart People Picker. And the Smart People Picker, as you're typing in the user that you're sharing to, we'll use AI to really smartly predict which person you want to talk to and share that file out to. We're also making the receiving experience better. And you can see here, this is a branded email where you can actually see that one was from Contoso. We're also doing this is a notification. If I share a file out, then I can get notified when someone accesses that file. These are great ways for the recipient to get a better sense of what's happening with their files. And the next one is a password-protected link. So we got a lot of feedback that people want to secure their data more than just the link. This is a way to assign a password to a specific link. The next one is block download. So I can send a link and check off block download. The recipient cannot print. They can't download that file. They can't even copy and paste from that file. This is great for external sharing sensitive information. Another one is guest expiration. So for a lot of external sharing scenarios, you want to expire that guest permission to that file, and we can do that coming up.
Very cool. In addition to making it way easier to collaborate with more and more content that's going into OneDrive, what are we doing to make it easier to discover that content?
Yeah, so that's the last pillar that I want to talk about is intelligence. And your files really do get smarter when they're in OneDrive. I'm showing you the beautiful new OneDrive webpage. You'll probably start seeing this one soon, but you see the new Fluent design, the new left nav. But the next thing you'll probably see is this new recommendations. And recommendations will show you what are the most relevant files to you and help you discover those more quickly. The next thing I want to show is that these files are alive. Because they're in the cloud, people are collaborating on them. You can see the activity on the file. You can see even if a guest edited the file, at mentions, comments, and you can see with this green arrow that the indicator that this file is popular. One of the things that we also released is this file hover card. And here you can see the number of views on the file, really giving the end user visibility into who's accessing it when, and also this inside look, which gives you a average reading time and also key points to the document. So if you are limited on time, you can really streamline your workflows. In addition to the documents, we're also seeing a lot of more media coming into OneDrive. And for that, I want to show, we have a video here. And within the video, I can actually pull a transcript, and in real time, it's transcripting this document. As you kind of flow through the document, you can jump around to the different sections. And if you feel like the AI is not quite accurate, you can always edit this transcript.
Oh, very cool.
Another quick thing in terms of search is, if I go back to the OneDrive, sometimes I might be at a conference and I take a picture of a receipt, but I don't remember to name that file a receipt. Because of object character recognition, I can search for specific files. And even though this file is an image, a JPEG, it knows that it's a receipt because
it sees the text of receipt inside the file. You can actually see it there, receipt, right there. And it actually did OCR against that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can clap. Awesome stuff. So really, really stellar set of updates to OneDrive for Business and all the things that we're doing to OneDrive to make it more intelligent, help with the move from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or newer versions of Windows. Where can people go to learn more about OneDrive All Up?
Yeah, so we have a lot of great resources that we're starting to roll out. You can see OD admin Docs. Here you'll find the latest and greatest in terms of migration tools. We have our blog and user voice, which we check regularly. In addition to the features that I showed you today, we also had a big announcement around files on demand for Mac and camera roll upload, which was another one of the big feature requests that we got on user voice.
And one of the things that we're doing for desktop deployment, all up in modern desktop deployment, we've launched a new desktop deployment center on docs.microsoft.com, as well as a brand new experience covering all the different areas around modern desktop deployment, featuring me and featuring Brad Anderson as well, that you can check out. But it basically goes through every step in our deployment process wheel, including the things that we saw today with user files and settings migration, as well as line of business apps, as well as getting your infrastructure ready for deployment, PC imaging, all of those things that you do as part of your end-to-end deployment. That's all found at aka.ms/watchhowtoshift. But this is all the time we have for an awesome set of updates for OneDrive. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Goodbye for now.